Hey gang, Mochaboy here. Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. So we're going to be covering the Clan War wrap-up from this most recent Father's Day Clan War. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. As usual, I've got a bunch of notes here, and we'll kind of go through them one by one. But yeah, we did not pull this one out, but it wasn't for lack of trying. We only missed the win by about 3 stars, 2-3 stars, and that could have come from anywhere. So for the guys who we're beating themselves up in clan chat, all I would say to you is, don't sweat it. There will be more wars as long as you learn something from this. It's not a loss, and we learned a lot. I've been warning you guys about these scenarios where these people, we're going to run into a clan that's just not going to lay over and let us walk right over them. The way some of the clan wars have gone, and this group was fighting tooth and nail to keep us in check. At one point, we had taken the lead. And then towards the end, they launched their strongest attacks against the remaining opponents. Got a few successful defenses, but in the end, we just came up a couple of stars shy, and we could not convert. But there were a lot of things that we learned in this, and this is one of the great things about these matchups. We learn new base designs, we learn new lure techniques, and we learn new defenses. We take that and then assimilate all those strategies into our own strategy, and then increase our overall playbook and capabilities. So we're going to be covering a lot of those things because these guys have done a few things that very few clans are capable of doing, and let alone doing as a group. So maybe there's like 1 or 2 people that have the talent or skill to disassemble a hog ring base. These guys had a lot of them, so we're going to be covering a lot of that. But the big thing that these guys did and were able to figure out was how to tweak their base designs to make the clan castle all but unlureable without having to sacrifice at least about 1/3 of your army. Now, this is an incredible strategic advantage that they had, and within the first few rounds of the clan war, that gave us they caused real headaches for us trying to get through. But case in point, and true to form, we adapted our strategies, and we're able to overcome that. But it wasn't without a lot of effort. I mean, these guys' base designs really pushed every single one of our skill sets to the limit, and we're going to take a look at some of those things. So, now normally I wouldn't cover replays from the opposing team, but these guys did a couple of cool things that I want to make sure that we have recorded so that we can review at a later time. And one of them was one of these guys hitting Christian's base. So Christian was he's our number 5, and unfortunately he got 3-starred by their, I think, number 1, 2, or 3, I forget. This guy was maxed out, and what happened here? So let's just take a look at how this happened. I mean, obviously the first thing that these guys did. So the first thing they did, hang on a second here. So the first thing they did was they sent in about maybe 5 or 6 troops into here to clear out this portion of the hog ring, bearing in mind that there's probably something in here, either a bomb or whatever. Now that has a 2-part process, or that has a 2-part purpose rather. And that's to break the hog ring and then draw the clan castle out. So once he drew the clan castle out, he was able to pull that out there. Now, one other interesting thing that he did was he dropped a heal right here to keep this group alive long enough. It's interesting that he knew exactly where that double bomb was, but hey, neither here nor there. Yeah, so once the hog ring is broken, he's clear to send in his troops all the way through, and they go right into the core of the base where they take out the splash defenses and the expos. And I mean, at that point, it's pretty much game over. Once they split, it's just amazing how he knows where the bombs are. Yeah, once they split, that's pretty much it. And this base is pretty much cooked at that point. There's not a whole heck of a lot that you can do against an attack like this, except to, stuff the clan castle with as many troops as possible. And this is one of the other things that they also did. Earlier on, when we were stuffing our clan castles, I noticed that we still had a lot of room, and I just had a feeling about these guys. So I made the recommendation to start stuffing trash into everyone's in everyone's clan castle. Now, that strategy is a two-part strategy. It's not enough to simply just stuff trash into the clan castle. You have to choose a base design that makes your clan castle as difficult to lure as possible. And we're going to take a look at some of these. We're going to take a look at some of these bases so that you can see exactly the kind of trouble that we ran into. And let me see if I can find. I think Smokin had some trouble with his guy. So let's take a look at this base. And what I'm talking about is this. So when you click on the clan castle, notice. Okay, wait, maybe not this one. Hang on, this was not the one. Okay, yeah, here's a good one. Now the one thing you want to notice is this: the trigger range. Let's see, you have this box here, and then you have the trigger range, which just barely intersects the edge of it. Now, basically what that means is you could send a troop in to take that out, but then they've got to live long enough to take this structure out and then move even further deeper in, before they actually trigger the clan castle. And the other thing is that it takes exactly 8 seconds for the clan castle to dump out, and that's I believe a level level 5. That's 30 capacity clan castle. It takes about 8.5 seconds to dump everything out. So whatever you send in there has to survive for 8.5 seconds, which is pretty crazy when you consider that a lot of these point defenses are, especially with if you have two splash defenses raining down on this, as well as the Wiz Tower, as well as these Archer Towers. That's roughly close to, I want to say, about 300-400 DPS per shot. So that means, 1 second, boom, that's one Hog Rider down. Second, boom, that's another Hog Rider down. And within 5 seconds, all of your Hog Riders are down if you only sent in 5. So that's the way that you calculate that. Now, what you want to do is you want to get away from, if you're going to be planning your lure, you want to get away from the splash defenses as much as possible, and then choose, say, something over on this side that's maybe just a little bit weaker and has less coverage. So this has 2 Wiz Towers, as well as this guy, but then only this and possibly this bearing down on that cannon. Now the other problem that we ran into was, even though it looks like you were inside the trigger range, it looks like the engagement zone is not necessarily the center of this 9x9 or 3x3 rather that we thought, but it's more like if you're attacking, just imagine this is a 3x3. You were attacking this, you're actually outside, and then if the engagement zone is in here, you don't actually trigger the clan castle until you beat this defense, and then you move deeper in. Now the problem with some of these defenses is that instead of moving deeper in, they moved out. So they, you sacrificed 6 for nothing at that point. So you've got to be able to plan your lures to hit that defense plus dive in a little bit deeper. And then at that point, it's just a matter of them staying alive long enough to dump the entire clan castle. Now, I sent in about 5 hogs at first, but then just to be safe, I said, let me throw an extra one in there. And sure enough, it wasn't enough to pull out everything that was in the clan castle. So that was 6 level 4 hogs on my first attack, and it dumped out everything except for 2 wizards. And I had 2 wizards chasing me around the base. I was finally able to take them out, but there were a couple of sweaty moments there, and I wasn't sure how I was going to convert. So we're going to be taking a look at these bases, and we've got screenshots of these, and we're going to be analyzing them to see if we can borrow some of these strategic components into our own base designs. But for the most part, Ringus designs are still pretty good. These guys, their strategy was to make the clan castle as unlureable as possible, so that you would spend all kinds of resources trying to get into there to dump them out. And really, what that means is if your hogs are raid level, and that's level 4, and you encounter a base like this, you want to send in at a minimum 6, but more likely about 7 or 8, and you might even want to consider using a heal in some of these scenarios, just so that they can take out, do some ancillary damage while they're in there. I mean, hell, if they're in there taking out defenses, you may as well take out as many as you can before they go down, right? So that's something I'm considering. So trigger ranges were really, really tough, and this was throughout, the range of all of their bases. And we're going to take a look at a few more of their bases that gave us a lot of trouble. 16 and 19. So let's take a look. I had notes off to the side here. So scout. Oops. So 16, yeah, this was actually the one that I ended up 3-starring later, but we'll take a look at this later. Hang on. Is it 19 or 20 that gave us trouble? So 20, this one was tricky. We didn't know what to do with this base. It is a moat, and one of the issues with this base is that the defenses are so spread out that they don't cover each other. And anytime you have a situation like this, you could send in a self-sustaining army, something like Giant Healer, and they can just roam from defense to defense, taking everything out along the way. But we ran into issues breaking through these defenses, and that was simply because of all of this distance made it difficult for us to steer anything into the core of the base. You could potentially treat this as a hog ring and like take out this guy, and then send everything through there, but that's only if you have hogs. Now, if you were doing a dragon raid, this was even tougher because everything was so spread out that as the dragons are moving from structure to structure, which they do extremely slowly, these guys are firing away on all of them. So, that made things really, really difficult for us. This guy got visited 7 times before we finally were able to. I'm sorry, no, not seven attacks. It was the guy right before this guy that got 7 attacks. But Pasta was able to go in on the second attack and get an extra star on that base. But this one here, which looks like it borrows elements from the Shuriken design, gave us a lot of problems. And we were a little shocked by this because, for one thing, it looks like the base is unfinished. But despite that, it still drew 7 attacks, I think, before we could finally get, before MJ went in there and just wrecked this base with all of his hogs. Yeah, I mean, really great trap placement, really good manipulation of the AI, spring traps here, Teslas and double bombs here, Teslas and double bombs here. This was a really well laid out base from a trap perspective, because I think on pretty much every attack, all of them got tripped. So really efficient design. If you guys are Town Hall 8 and you're looking for an interesting design, I say give this a shot and see how it does for you. Again, we were a little surprised because it seems like a very compact base design, but it still gave us a lot of trouble. Okay. There was another one further down, I think number 42, that gave us trouble. A lot of, I think it drew about 5 attacks, but these bases are tricky. It's if you don't go in there with the right level of resources, and that's typically, if you're going to be doing a dragon raid, at least level 3 dragons. Level 2 dragons can work, but against high level air defenses, it's you're going to run into a lot of trouble. So what else is there? Right. So some of the attacks. Let's take a look at some of the replays so that you understand exactly what I want to share with you here was my thought process for going in and attacking the number 12 base here. Now, what was interesting about this was their co-leader, and this was right after one of their guys. I think their number 3 guy came in and just sent mass dragons against my base. And it was a dumb decision on my part to arrange a few defensive structures the way that I did. So I'll be correcting that for the next clan war. But so let's take a look at this base. Now this was tricky. This was hard. I went in there with level 4 hogs. You would think that hitting. Well, let me see if I can break this down. first, a couple of the issues. You got your Barbarian King up here. You've got your AQ here. Now, the thing that you have to study is this. Your lure, when it goes in, has to do three things. It has to take out the defense that you're sending it against, and then it has to penetrate the trigger zone to activate the clan castle. And then the next thing it has to do is it has to survive at least 8 seconds to dump that clan castle out. But then ancillary to even that, if you can get it to trigger one of the heroes, that's even better because you're not wasting another troop to do that. And if you remember from my last video, the engagement order that you want to do these in, Archer Queen first. She can do the most damage, but she's also the crunchiest, so you can take her out the fastest. Then the clan castle, and then deal with the Barbarian King last with whatever leftover DPS that you have. There's a lot of strategies for taking out the AQ really quickly. Maybe drop your Barbarian King on her head or whatever, but just remember that when you engage them, that you draw them into the corner in such a way that you're dropping troops on the AQ and keeping your DPS alive long enough to finish off the clan castle. Now, I was successful in this, but I did have to call a few audibles when I did this. Again, the engagement strategy for this was this. Step number 1 was hit the defense. I chose this one because it was the lowest level defense, and what we know from these guys is that they're very smart about positioning. What I also knew was there were more than likely double bombs in here, which ended up being the case later on. But I'll show you a trick that I have for avoiding those. So step 1 again, hit this guy, and then penetrate that trigger range long enough to and survive long enough to dump out this castle. I sent in 6. If I had sent in 7, that might have been enough to for them to live long enough. But part of the problem here with that was these 3 guys. I had that mortar raining down on me, this wizard tower raining down on me, this wizard tower raining down on me, and then this X-bow peppering away. That was probably close to, I want to say about 200 or 300 DPS per second, and I mean it gave me a lot of trouble. Now, just to be sure, I did send in one last hog, so that was I think my 7th hog to go in after I had dumped out the clan castle, and that was enough to grab one more wizard of the 2 that were still in there. So these guys were doing 3 wizards, that's 12 minus the, and then 18 archers, which is just, I mean, wow, it was a nightmare. Now, as far as deploying the hogs, once you have dealt with the CC, it's time to deploy the hogs. Again, one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want them to come into here and then veer right towards here, especially not through any of these 4x4 sections, which obviously contain double bombs. So what you have to do is you have to break up your attack group. You send in 3 at that guy, possibly 3 at that guy, and then send the bulk of your force in through here and through there. So that way, they're free to just plow straight into the core of the base, and then with these guys left, there's nothing to draw their attention. This is one of the other things that I also started doing. If you guys are hogging, think about consider requesting hogs in your CC rather than wizards, and there's a very good reason for this. One of the things that I found was if you had a CC with 5 or 6 wizards, and you drop, let's say the AQ was right here, and there was a wizard right behind her, and then you drop your clan, you drop your clan castle right here. One of the things that the ranged units do is they all walk up and then they stop. They walk up and they stop, and they walk up and they stop. And then basically what that means is they all bunch up together in a nice killable circle. Now, this actually bit me once on one raid where all 5 or 6 of the wizards, they walked right up and then stopped all in one nice circle. And then one wizard came away, and one blast later, they were boom, they were all gone. In the blink of an eye, they were all gone. Now, the difference to that is if you just bring 10 or 12 wizards along, and you have your CC all nice and packed, you can manually spread them around in a way that keeps them spread out for one thing, and then able to live long enough to be able to do their job. I found that's way better than having a clan castle with 5 wizards in there. And there's another reason why having hogs, especially if you're level 4 and you request level 5 hogs, you've got some extra power and some DPS. So what that does is that becomes a steering component. So let's say you send in your hogs here, and then just for the sake of argument, you have no hogs left to help steer. To keep this pack together and not, leeching off in this direction, deploy your CC here. And then those hogs will go in here, destroy that structure, and then act as a buffer, to keep these guys focused on where they need to be going. And at least as far as I'm concerned, I prioritize the shortest path to the expos. These have the most hit points out of all of the defensive structures at this level, and they also cause the most headaches because they'll take out your ground troops, your wizards, and whatever else from long range, and you really have to take those guys out. So again, just a review. 6, or at least in the future, is probably going to be 6, 7, or 8 hogs to get that to get inside the trigger range, lure the CC out, and then deploy the main force, and then deploy a steering force to keep that main group pushing in the same direction. And for the bases that have designs like this where they group up structures, you want to steer them into the clusters of DPS as much as possible. And by clusters of DPS, I mean things like these. This is a cluster of point defenses and splash. The point defenses will keep the hogs busy, and then the splash will just just keep peppering away at you. Sorry. So let's take a look at that raid and just do some commentary on how this all went down. Now I was able to 3-star this guy with time to spare, but I mean. The other thing that I'm not sure if I mentioned before was I budget about 30 seconds to deal with the clan castle. Any more than that, and you're going to be running into trouble. So first defense is down. I'm inside the trigger range. Notice you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things bearing down on that. The fact that they survived as long as they did is just a miracle. Now, something I did here that I wasn't expecting on was drawing these guys out. And the reason that I did that was because I needed this guy to live long enough to get into there, to draw out whatever was left. Now, at this point, I mean, this is all gambling here. I wasn't sure if I grabbed everything, but I said, you know what, I've got to get my attack started. I'm already 30 seconds in. Get them in nice and bunched up. My wizards come down. Big mistake there. I really needed to do distractions first before the wizards. So all the wizards go down, and all I've got actually are my archers. But then they do a good job of picking up what's left. I drop in wizards behind them. I drop my BK to take out their hero, and then we're ready to go. So this guy starts here. I deploy a steering component here to keep them focused going straight. 1 wizard left. He's not going to give me too many troubles, but you're going to have to heal aggressively to get past his DPS. Now, the other thing that I noticed, if you notice down here, I deployed my 3rd steering group, and that's again to keep this team moving forward, and to keep which then spills off into this group here and keeps them all moving through. So this is pretty much ideal in terms of deployment. Everybody moving through the base at the same rate in the same direction, not jumping around. And notice, tripped a couple double bombs there. Double bomb there, took out about 6 hog riders. This wizard's still plowing around, but there's only 1 defense left, and it's starting to get a little close. But once that's down, whoomp, 1 hit and he's gone. I've got about, I want to say about 6 hogs left to take out the rest of the base, along with all my wizards and and 1 hero. So, yeah, was able to 3-star that base, and we were good to go. 16 was also... Now, here's the thing about this base. I was originally actually planning to go against their number 1, and then at the last second I noticed that Chime was ready to start his raid, so I backed off and immediately started looking at number 2. And I'd spent about 30 minutes looking at that base, and then when I realized, I'm like, I gotta go and attack a different base. There were maybe about 11 minutes left in the clan war, and I had about 3 minutes to assess this base. So the first thing I did was, note the position of the expos. Oh, we did that again. Note the position of these obvious funnels. Note the position of the 4x4s, and obvious areas for where the Teslas might be. So double Teslas here, 1 Tesla there, spring, spring, and then double bombs here. And so the challenge here is you've got to send something in here. you have to send something in there to trap, to trigger off that bomb. Now, what was really tricky about this were these stacked archer towers. You'd have to send a pretty sizable component in there, maybe 5 or 6, to trigger that. At the end, I think I just said, to heck with it. I'll just drop a heal. If you have level 4 hogs, they'll survive even a double bomb. Maybe not all of them will, but if you heal early enough. So if, let's say your hogs are coming in this way, if you heal early enough, if you drop that heal, before they enter that spot, they'll be full health and they'll be able to survive that bomb. Now, if on the other hand you came in this direction and this guy was peppering away at you, this guy is just enough to pull, to pull away enough hit points to vaporize that group. So, long story short is, if you're going to try to trigger the double bombs, send in a small group. You don't want to lose your entire raid, the mass of your raid party. And for those of you guys who think you need 30, all you need is 20. Your last DPS group. If you've got anywhere between 10, 15, 20 hogs, I mean, that's really all you need to take out the rest of the base. Everything else is just a distraction to draw fire. So let's take a look at this raid. Again, the big issue here was trigger range. I knew this one it had the least amount of defenses firing on it, so I knew my team would last long enough to dump the castle out, which they did. And I sent in about 6, I believe. Just double checking to make sure I've got everybody. I aggro the king and the queen, and then I start dragging everybody down. Now, one interesting thing here was I didn't want to deal with these structures, so I called an audible and I said, you know what, plan B, let's pull them over to the right. And this happens a lot, you make these decisions on the fly. In terms of engagement, Barbarian King on the AQ, take her out so she's no longer an issue. Start dropping wizards. Well, I drop my archers down, drop the wizards right behind them. And yeah, I was able to take care of them in due order. So at that point, I chose to, at first I was going to come in right up the middle, but I chose to split up the group. Now notice what I did there. I sent in 5 to trigger those double bombs first and spare the guys behind them, and that worked out pretty well for me. So once they get into the core though, and they start taking out the point defenses and Teslas, it's pretty much over. Now, I do have one more set of double bombs here to worry about, but like I said, at this point I've got so many hogs that it's probably not going to be an issue. And sure enough, double bombs, boom. Took out a few, but I've still got the vast majority of them running around the base, just wrecking things. So, one other thing I did, I don't know if you noticed that, but I dropped these level 5 hogs in here to, you have this group coming in here, this group coming in here. This group helped to buffer their direction and push them kind of in that direction. So that's how to use the steering component in a clan castle. So again, long story short, if you want the hogs to act a little bit more predictably, to be a little more predictable in their path, use these steering components. Don't dump all of them all in in one line. Dump a few, at least in packs of 10, but then save 5 to help push them along, along the direction that you want them to go in. So that's that. Now the last thing I wanted to cover, because we're already pretty deep in, the last thing that came up in clan chat was just a small spirited debate about what type of trophy armies to use. The question of, should I go with Hogs or should I go with something like Gowipe came up, and the obvious answer to that is you're going to need both at some point. But just that you understand, just so that you understand what it takes to get those trophy armies to the point where they can actually 3-star bases. Again, I've always maintained you should absolutely max out your Hogs as quickly as possible. It's one of those things that you just won't regret, both from a farming capacity as well as a raid capacity. But the bottom line is, if you wanted to take Hogs from level 1 to level 4 or even level 5, you're looking at about 44 days, so it's a month and change, and about 140k dark elixir. Now if you wanted to do Gowipe, on the other hand, that's maxing out 2 classes. You have to max out the P.E.K.K.A.s and you have to max out the Golems, and you're looking at a cumulative amount of 76 days to do Golems and P.E.K.K.A.s, and that's at the cost of 300,000 dark elixir, and 170,000. I'm sorry. So yeah, you're talking that's at the cost of 300,000 dark elixir as well as 17 million elixir, and then 76 days. I'll have to double check those numbers. But anyway, it's a question of do you want to have a trophy army in 3 months or a month and a half, and at half the cost, and only have to max out one component that will actually help you with your farming capability. So for those of you guys still working out your hogs, get them to level 4. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a good idea for us and for a clan in general. And what that will do is that will give you a viable 3-star raid strategy that you'll be able to deploy both up the tree and down the tree. And then for those super tough bases, that'll give you the breathing room to go work on Gowipe. But once you get your hogs to 4 and preferably even 5, you're free to go in whatever direction you want, and that's either Gowipe, Gowipe, Balloonian, whatever. All options for you. But a month and a half versus 3 months and 4 times the cost. You make the decision. So again, guys, good war. Don't worry about the missed stars, or or the distractions. That really sucked, Grizz, but what are you going to do? Got a happy wife, happy life, right? There's never been an expectation that we were a competitive clan war group, but there is an expectation that you do try the best and that you continue putting your best foot forward, learn the strategies, become students of the game, and be able to pick apart these bases. I was watching that last 2 hours and I didn't say anything, mostly because it was Father's Day and I was trying to spend it with my kids. But at the same time, I want to see that strategy light kind of go off in all of your heads. It's not difficult to pick these bases apart. You just have to know what to look for, and it takes practice, just like anything else. So if you haven't done so already, go into the sub. There's a poll there to change the clan war schedule to a Monday Thursday search, so that the wars wrap up on Wednesdays and Saturdays. This gives everybody back their Sunday, because I don't know about you guys, but I want my Sundays, and I don't want to have to be in game when I could be out playing with my kids. So that's about it. Again, hope you thought that was helpful. If you want to see wrap-ups from any of the other matches, just let me know. We could probably talk for another hour about everything that went on here, but I'll keep it at this for now. Get your hogs up to raid level. Bolster your defenses. I'll be posting the maps, and a few of you guys really are in desperate need of a base redesign, and you're all level 8 now, so or higher, so there's no excuse. Get your bases up to par and make them work for their stars. All right, I'll catch you on the next.